do you know that your body contains almost 2 kilograms of bacteria? These are tens and trillions of bacteria living inside your guts alone. Now, 1/3 of these bacteria are common in all human beings like you and I. But the other 2/3, God knows how they get in there. So wash your hands. I hope that you have all washed your hands after your toilet break before you even think of biting your nails or eating those things in the food that has been prepared for you. So when you're saying that you're trusting your guts, what you're actually doing is that you're relying on your life decisions, on these little gits in your guts. And trust me, they can really ruin your life for you if you're not careful. So when was the first time you ever trusted your guts? My first time was when I was 11 years old. And that decision resulted in me spending the next 15 years of my life freezing my ass off in the UK. It started with a family holiday trip when I was 10. I was to England. I was very excited because that was my first time that I would ever get to go out of Asia. Of course, I was excited. I packed my shirts and shorts, not knowing what to expect from an English winter. I mean, you should have been there to witness how awkward I felt, running around Piccadilly Circus trying to keep warm. I mean, I was breathing out steam, and it was as if the whole city was under a freezer. Now, one of the highlights of the trip was a visit to Cambridge and the university. I remember it well. Cambridge was a beautiful town, amazing architecture, densely populated by geeks on bikes. And believe me, I had the worst fish and chips ever in that trip in Cambridge. I was too young probably to realize that my parents probably had an agenda for me for that trip. Not until over 10 years later when I graduated from University of Oxford. Oops. But, had I gone to Cambridge, I might have gained a proper education, learn a few things or two, and not having to rely myself on my gut so much these days. Anyway, a few months after that trip, surely enough, my parents approached me and asked whether I might want to go to England to study in an English boarding school. Now, an idea of a British boarding school, thousands of miles away from home, communal shower, living with strangers in dormitories, and baked beans for breakfast every morning may not seem like a good idea for some people, but for someone like me who didn't have a clue about anything, it wasn't an issue, right? At the time, I was studying at a Thai school, Saathit Prasan Mit, where my English was limited to yes, no, okay, the cat shat on the bloody mat, and so on. I mean, my English was a little bit more advanced than other people. But naturally, when you don't have a clue or what to expect, you kind of trust your guts. And that's exactly what I did. I trusted my guts and decided to pursue my education in England, where I spent the next 2 months perfecting the sign language. I mean, I was horrified the first time that I entered the classroom. I asked myself, where are the girls? Not knowing that my parents actually sent me to an all-boys boarding school. I mean, that sucks, particularly when I was so into womanizing in my preteen years. Sadly, I don't do much of it these days due to lack of experience. So from that day on, I trusted my guts, and it's something that I never regretted. But should you always trust your guts? Well, my recommendation to you is that you should trust your guts when you have some kind of information, data, experience to kind of support your life decision. But there are times when this data is not available to you. So what I usually do is I have some guiding principles that I would like to share with you today. My first guiding principle: go by your guts and don't depend on other people. Now, basics first. When you're relying on your own guts, you have to realize that you are relying on your own guts and not other people's. I mean, would I base my life decisions on the bacteria inside your stomach? Hell no. But at the same time, you have to accept that whatever the consequences, you don't have anyone to blame on, and you don't have anyone to fix the situation for you. So only when that you're prepared to accept the consequences of your gut, should you be able to trust your gut completely. I'm one of those people who like to stand on my own feet. On the day that I graduated, I made a promise to myself that that would be the last day that I will ever ask my parents for money or financial support. At the time, I didn't have a job, and I still wanted to stay in England. So what did I do? I trusted my guts. I withdrew my entire life savings of around £1,000 at the time. That's like 50,000 baht. Mostly largely accumulated from the red envelopes that my aunts and uncles gave me during the Chinese New Year's, just ang pao envelopes. Yeah. So while I was job hunting, I rented a studio room in Chelsea. If you haven't been, it's a very nice area in England. So happens to be one of the most expensive places to live on earth. My guts told me to go crazy, man. Remember, they can really ruin your life. So my rent was high, but I was confident that eventually I will find a job before I starve to death. And believe me, I was almost at that point when I finally got a job offer as an analyst for Accenture. I remember it well. The day before I got paid my first paycheck, my entire life savings was down to £4. That's 200 baht in your life. It was scary, and it was cold, because it was in the middle of the winter. I was living virtually in the poverty in Chelsea. I didn't even have a coat. So the day that I got paid, I went to Zara and grabbed myself a black coat that I've been eyeing for the last month. It costed me £129, I remember it to this day. And do you know what happened to that coat? 2 years after, when I got promoted, I decided to give this coat to an analyst who just joined my team. He seems like he's been following his guts as well. And oh God, he's been eating sandwiches like day and night. I bet you his bacteria in his stomach were maniacs. And he's been sharing a flat with 5 other people in Victoria. And if you haven't been, that's like an armpit of Belgravia. So from that day on that I graduated to this day, I kept a promise to myself that I will never ask my parents for financial support again, then I will be living independently and will be prepared to face any consequences that may follow. Guiding principle number 2, if your gut leads you well, feed the gut. Sounds fun? So what does that entail? I'm one of those people who like to set realistic but ambitious goals in life. And I make a point to kind of recognize it or celebrate it in some ways when I achieve those goals before putting the goalposts further down the field. Having had my life net worth of 200 baht, my next goal was to achieve 1 million baht. At the time, it was realistic because, 1 million yen would be rather easy, but 1 million pounds would be rather stretching for someone who's just started their career. So 1 million baht was just right. I say to myself that once I achieve that, I would take my friends out clubbing and treat them with fine champagne. That's how I'm going to celebrate. So I work my ass off, and that day that I became a millionaire, or baht millionaire, I did just that. I took my friends out clubbing. We ordered fine champagne. I had an amazing time. And I woke up with such a fine headache the morning after. I wasn't sober until I checked my bank balance and find out that that evening set me back by around 30,000 baht, and I was no longer a millionaire. But that didn't bother me. Recently, I purchased a condo, which is one of my life goals as well. And as usual, I celebrated with close friends in a condo warming party. This time, I learned to celebrate with Prosecco instead of champagne. Guiding principle number 3, don't limit yourself, have the guts to do something new. One of the things that I look forward to after a hard day of work is happy hour in a local bar. Because like happy hour, that doesn't last the whole night, your life doesn't last forever either. If you think of it in a relative term, if the Earth has been around for 6,000 years, then your time sharing on this planet is only 45 minutes or 1 hour max. So what are you going to do in that time? Explore some new experiences and sensations. That's my recommendation. It's always disappointing to ask people what their hobbies are. So often I get replies like, shopping. Shopping. Worse still, sleeping. You could learn so much more from growing a baby cactus than sleeping, trust me. Unless, of course, you have someone interesting to sleep with. But most of the time, the cactus gets it, face it. So, I'm ever so grateful for my parents who raised me up as an activity child. When I was studying in Thailand, my post-school activity included swimming, horse riding, tennis, and football on alternate weekdays, and sailing in the weekends. I really had a tiger mum. And when I went to England, I also picked up the violin as if the piano wasn't demanding enough, and tried out some new sports like cricket and rugby. I even had a chance to join a ballroom dancing team and conduct an orchestra during my university years. Some of the activities I enjoy, some of them not so much. For example, ballet, my dear tiger mum put me through a ballet class when I was young. That was so awkward. But all of these experiences are good experience for me. It's all about having the guts to try something new in a chance that you may find yourself something that you really enjoy doing. You might think that my school and university life has been like being in a pleasure island. But believe me, I did work really hard and graduated with an engineering degree. But did I limit myself to become an engineer? No, I don't think that anyone should let their education be a limit to their career choice. Education is supposed to open up opportunities for you, right? No one is born to be an accountant even if they have an accounting degree. There's nothing wrong with being an accountant, by the way. So after my graduation, I started to work as an IT consultant. Then I got a bit bored of it. I tried to do something new, slightly new, as in IT auditing, which ended up to be really boring. My guts hated it. So I changed again to become a project manager in another software company, and then moved on to do some business advisory for industries like financial services, telecoms, and food manufacturing, which was fun. It's always fun to learn something new. For example, when I wanted to have a website, rather than hiring someone to make a website for me, I buy books and I study how to make a website. That way, I can get it exactly the way that I want it. That's total satisfaction. And more importantly, it's free. So learn how to do new things. I even like doing websites, so I later founded a website development company that gave me pocket money to use for the last 10 years. Recently, I bought a condo, and I wanted to decorate my condo. Rather than hiring someone or an interior designer to do that for me, I buy books, and I try to study the art of interior design. That way, I can decorate it just the way that I want it. So, try if you can to explore new things, learn new things, live life like a happy hour because it's limited. You never know, you might find yourself a passion. And when you do find yourself a passion, this leads me to the next guiding principle. Follow that gut to pursue your passion. Passion is hard to find, really difficult, especially for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so often when I interview people for jobs, they often claim that they're passionate about their work. So let's see what kind of things they're passionate about these days, these young kids. Drawing process flows, software debugging, product testing. I even had a girl claiming that she's passionate about taking minutes. Come on, what the TEDx is going on? For these people, taking minutes cannot be a passion. I wonder how many people would be willing to do these kind of activities for free. Being passionate about something for me is when you're willing and happy to do these kind of activities regardless of whether you get paid and regardless of whether you're in a good mood. For me, one of my passions is in music, both in performing and in appreciating. I started to play the piano when I was 4 and the violin when I was 12 and started conducting an orchestra when I was 18. Today, I'm still active as a conductor in my capacity and have been invited to conduct various orchestras in the UK as well as in Thailand. In Bangkok, I founded an orchestra of my own and I had the pleasure of working with over 600 musicians. I really enjoy what I do and I strongly recommend that you find your passions to pursue what you want to do in life. And if your passion happens to make money for you as well, then you're very lucky. People often say that I take my hobby too seriously. Some people do extreme sports like bungee jumping. I don't see why I can't do extreme hobby. So once if you're lucky enough to find yourself a passion that's not illegal, immoral, or fattening in any ways, be fanatical about it. You won't regret it. My last guiding principle for today is find time to feed other guts. I don't believe that you have to be a rich person to give back to the society, to be able to give back to the society. Money, after all, isn't everything. If you can donate your time, if you could donate your effort to make a difference to the society, then you might find the whole experience rewarding. For me, being able to give to charity without expecting things in return is one of the things that makes me happy. But mind you, charity work isn't for everyone, so if it distresses you or causes you pain in any ways, I wouldn't force it on yourself. But if you haven't tried, simple things like painting the school, spending a few days with the orphanages, or even clearing the beaches when you go on holiday, these kind of things do make impact to the society. And if you're a busy person like me, you might want to try to find ways to combine your hobby with your passion. For example, I founded the Bangkok Charity Orchestra in 2010 with the aim to raise funds for various charity foundations and projects in Thailand. In the past 5 years, we have raised over 14 million baht to help disabled children, disabled people, orphanages, and disaster victims, both in Thailand and in our neighboring countries like Japan and Nepal, for example. So, all in all, I hope that I have in some ways, through my humble bragging, inspired you to live a life, make the most out of your life, find passions that you like, and find also opportunities to give back to the society. And before I finish, I would like to invite you to live a happy hour life. And I'll be thrilled to know what kind of activities you do by sharing your photos on Instagram with this hashtag, #HappyHourLifers. Yesterday, I've been tagging myself just to get things started. So I'll be very happy to know what kind of things you're up to. So remember, live a happy hour life, do it now, tag it later. Thank you.